Hello, and welcome to episode 36 of the Luckycast. I'm your host, DeoxysPrime, and joining me on another anime podcast, we got Collin.
Anime.
We got
Every
Matt.
time.
Hello.
And we got Funk.
Hello, and I actually have special news.
Oh,
not
here we
even
go.
joking. No, it's not a bit. It's always a bit, but it's not
always
a bit. So I just clicked on Mal, and my bookmark takes me to my profile. And apparently, with the closure of this season, I have reached exactly 300 completed series.
Nicely done.
Nice round number.
I thought you were going to say that your mean score has reached 6.66.
No, it's been there for a while now, and it remains there. So I'm happy that, and I didn't rate things accordingly this season, but I'm happy that it's stuck.
Well, you're almost caught up to Kenny's 1,159 completed shows, so.
Oh my god.
One or two more seasons, I'll be there.
Kenny was supposed to be here, but you know Kenny.
He's got distracted playing Persona 5 because he enjoys it so much.
Things that'll never happen. So this is our winter 2019 wrap-up end-of-season podcast thing here. And it's not going to be like a lot of the old ones. We don't have like an ordered list of shows that people are going to talk about. I'm just going to open the floor to people to talk about the shows they want to talk about. But we're going to start with a specific show because it's one we've all watched. So
The exact opposite of opening the floor.
I'll open up the floor later. Floor's closed for now. We're going to talk about Mob Psycho 102.
All right.
Or Mob Psycho 200, as it's known.
Collin, this is your baby, so, if you want to take it, go ahead.
Yeah, I made Mob Psycho, right? Yeah. I worked very hard on it. Well, thanks, Steve, for just dropping this one on me.
You were very unprepared to talk. You had no idea that you would be discussing this show, so...
Let's see. Well, this is pretty stellar. And last time we talked about this, Steve asked me a question that really stumped me. He asked me why I did not give Mob Psycho Season 1 a 10. Because I praised that to high heaven. And I couldn't really give a straight answer at the time. I was thinking, well, I don't know, maybe it's the moralizing. Maybe some of that comes off as a little too heavy-handed for me. And it wasn't really that. It didn't really detract for me. What happened was that, as a prestigious manga reader, I knew that the show was going to get better than this. So I knew that this was not quite where the bar was going to be set forever. I knew it was going to get just even better. And wow, Season 2 actually exceeded my expectations.
Really? So you, after watching Season 1, you expected Season 2 to be better, and it delivered on that.
Yes.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
Rather, I'm surprised to hear that you think that it delivered on the promise of being better than the first season.
Not just that, I think it was even better than I would have expected.
Wow, I'm very surprised to hear that.
Yeah, because I knew that Season 2 was going to have Mogami and the Reagan arc, and those arcs are very, very popular. But it was also going to have the World Domination arc, and World Domination for me has always been... I like it, but it's definitely not my favorite. And my God, I cannot stress enough just how much having Bones on board for this, Papa Bones on board for this arc, improved it. Because this is quite the spectacle. The entire Shimazaki fight, Shimazaki versus the Jobbers.
Now he's the blind one, correct?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So you enjoyed that?
I enjoyed the hell out of that, and just having that quality of animation made you so much more engaged in each one of the characters that you're watching. Because obviously you don't get a lot of time with these guys, right?
Right.
It's just like, oh, these guys are here to get beat up. But just having such amazing visual storytelling going on while they do it, like how much detail they're putting into this fight, makes you much more engaged made me much more engaged with it than I was in the manga. Also, I had completely forgotten that Terada, who is the guy with the skunk stripe hair and the goatee, I had completely forgotten that he didn't turn evil. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He actually didn't betray them. I completely forgot about that.
Well, it was such an important plot element.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you forgot.
I'm surprised. You know what? I'm surprised they even brought in that one guy who just got completely blown the fuck out in 3 seconds in the last season. The brown guy with the long hair.
Oh, yeah.
And the scar on his forehead.
Yeah. Well,
we gotta bring him back, boys.
Everybody's here.
No, not the guy with the huge chin, and not the baby man.
I don't know.
They were truly irredeemable.
Well, so that last arc, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really did not. Obviously, I don't have the manga to compare it to, so I completely believe that the animation elevated it from what it was, but I really don't think that it made it something really all that engaging. I found that by far to be the worst part of the season, and in fact, compared to the climactic arc of the first season, it was wholly disappointing, I felt. Such that it was a pretty clear downturn in quality. So I was so into everything leading up to that. And then just kind of out of nowhere, we have this world-shattering conflict going on. And A, I wasn't really ready for it, and I found that to be disruptive to my experience. But B, even once I was kind of, along for the ride, it just wasn't anything too... I mean, obviously there was spectacle, but I wouldn't say it was spectacular.
I agree to a certain extent. Not really like as down on it as Funk seems to be. It's more that everything up until that point, like that is the heart of the show. Whereas this was just it was a good payoff for a lot of that, but it's not necessarily what I come to this show specifically for.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a little too shonen.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with it was just the setup, where it's like we had the first episode where it starts. They bring back all these characters like one after another, and it goes so fast that you're a little lost, especially if you're like me and hadn't watched the show since it first aired. It's like, okay, who are all these people? You're just throwing them at me one after another. It's like, okay, once you get grounded with those characters again, it picks up. But, I mean, I found it entertaining. It's just like everything in this show after the fucking Reagan arc, like that to me is the peak of the show. So nothing was going to quite live up to that, even if I still enjoyed everything that came after. And I don't know, you've read the manga, Collin. Is the Reagan arc, like, is that the one people point to as like, this is the best part of the manga? Because it feels like that after watching the show.
A lot of people would say that the Reagan arc is their absolute favorite. That's not to say that stuff that comes afterwards, after even World Domination, a lot of people still love the 2 out of the 3 subsequent arcs after this. So maybe some people would say some of those arcs are their favorite, but yeah, you probably most commonly see Reagan or Mogami as people's favorites.
And they were quite good. There no way would any kind of dissatisfaction with the final arc there take away from those. But yeah, it's just not where the show's strengths lie. Like, yes, you can hire a good animation studio to really, nail it as far as the visuals are concerned, but it's not gonna save it from being something that's ultimately not that interesting. I don't think.
I think there was enough going on with Mob's character and just the payoff of all the build up from this season and the last of his progress and his journey that I think carries that arc enough. Whereas, like, I'm plenty satisfied with the action. Like, I think one of the things the show can be praised for is being able to do all of this stuff extremely well. Whereas a lot of shows struggle to even nail one aspect of it. This show has all of these elements being juggled and pulls them off exceptionally well. And like Collin said, Bones deserves a lot of credit for that.
Well, I agree to that to an extent, because the best parts of the action are when they're interlaced with the characters' development and motivations, which is a lot of the scenes that involve Mob. But Collin mentioned this scene before where like all the jobbers are fighting the blind guy, and that really had nothing of substance behind it. It was just nice to look at times, and well choreographed.
I
think it was. Sorry, you can go, Matt.
The best part of that fight was when Mob and Reagan show up, and Reagan just blows him the fuck out.
Oh yeah. And the best part is that was obvious, or immediately and obviously telegraphed, and it made complete sense. And not just some kind of like stupid ass pull to make Reagan look good. It was perfect.
You know what else made Reagan look good? When Reagan had a gun.
What if Reagan had a gun?
And there were still a lot of great character moments in that arc. I think you have the part where Dimple possesses Musashi. I think.
Oh my god, that was like one of my favorite That was one of my favorite scenes in the whole season. Just when he possesses him.
I think the point is that you've now built up the story with all these characters in it, and I think it'd be a shame if you just left them to the wayside to do nothing.
Yeah, but the solution to that is to not write the scenario like this, where you introduce...
But having all these characters are important. Like, that's the point of the show, is that all these characters come together to interact with Mob, and that is what forces his growth as a character. The best thing I can say about this show is that, like, for a show that is literally about the power of friendship, it does not feel contrived or forced in any way. It's probably like the most organic anime I've ever watched about this premise work just as well as it does. Because it's not just put in there to be like, okay, this is how we justify Mob winning the fight. It's like, no, this is what this show's about, and it does it extremely well.
Because we're Mob Psycho 100.
Yeah, and that's what I don't get. I'm sorry, I'm gonna throw out a straw man here. When people say that there's nothing special about Mob Psycho, they just say it's just a pretty face. They don't really understand why.
It's okay. If it's a straw man, you need to really go all out, right? There's nothing special about that.
You need your whiny internet voice.
They say there's no groundbreaking lesson to be learned from Mob Psycho, and the only thing I can think of is like, how many fucking shows do you watch where you learn something from it? Would you ever apply that line of logic to something that you like?
Well, maybe these people watch South Park a lot, and they're like, I learned something today.
It really gets my noggin jogging, The point, Mob Psycho has its themes, and it does them well, and it does them coherently. They all make complete sense within the context of what happens in the show. It never feels, like Steve said, it never feels contrived. It never feels like it contradicts itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people kind of hone in on that when they see like the immense praise, and they're like, yeah, it looks good, but it's nothing revolutionary, and it doesn't have to be. Mob Psycho isn't promising you the beginning of a new era of anime. It's just a shonen.
A very good one, but
yeah, it's just quality.
I would argue, if anything, it's more of like an anti-shonen. It's like I hate to use the word.
Are you saying it's a subversion?
Yes, it's almost like a subversion of a shonen, because shonens are always all about like the big fight scenes and the flashy colors, and no, I'm gonna kill you with my big punch attack. Like the fights that are in Mob Psycho are like the complete antithesis to, say, My Hero Academia Season 3 Muscle Man fight.
It always goes back to fucking Muscle Man.
Muscle Man.
They know what they did. It's nice because you look at those regular shonen, and in the fights the protagonist is always just like, and you look at Mob, and most of the time he's just staring blankly at the camera.
Or he's crying.
Yeah, it's different.
Or he has cutesy bishoujo anime eyes.
In a medium where so much is just derivative of everything else. Like, the fact that this is simple but different works. That's what makes it special, I'd argue.
Right. And I mean, it's funny how I heard everybody like making such a big deal about the Mogami arc in episode 5, and it was like, oh my god, it's so amazing. And I was just like, when I finished that episode, I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. And then
Matt, it had black bars on the top and the bottom. So
oh my god, it had. Oh my god, did you see those red blobs flying around? It was so great. The animation was so good.
It was pretty good.
I mean, it was good. It was good animation.
But It was just the fight. Everything leading up to that was the meat, and then that was just like a little poof.
Catharsis.
Yeah.
And I mean, the best part of that episode was the ending where he meets the real girl and she apologizes. Like that was like the big payoff, really. Was just seeing that little moment where she's saved. I mean, the real best episode of the season was, I would definitely say, is episode 7 with Reagan.
Which part of the arc was that?
That was the Reagan arc. That was the end.
Okay.
That was
a couple episodes in that arc.
Like just that scene where a mob like just says like, I knew you were a good person to Reagan, and Reagan just breaks down. It's just so perfect. It's so good.
That's
what I really, really love
that
about
moment of
Bones...
vulnerable, like it's like the only moment you ever see Reagan in a moment of vulnerability, and it just makes him feel like such a real character.
Yeah, and what I really love about what Bones did about that, I've waited 3 years to talk about this. Goddamn. What I really love about what Bones did with that is that in season 1 they added in a scene from this arc and they altered it.
Right.
It's the scene where Mob first meets Reagan. Right. That's not originally in the manga in the Claw arc.
Right. It's in
this arc only.
Right.
But in the Claw arc, they have it from Mob's perspective only. Mm-hmm. And then then you see it from Reagan's perspective all these years later. Oh my gosh, that's amazing payoff. And then just the way that they transition from that scene, as I guess the camera. Obviously, there's no camera; it's animation, but that's the only that's the only thing I can really use to describe it. Where I guess the shot pans, rotates around from that past to the present. So good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing I just want to say about the Claw arc again, because we frequently talk about how crappy flashbacks are.
Where's DL?
How crappy flashbacks at their moment of payoff are. And there was something at the end of the Toichiro fight. They give him a little flashback, and just having that as a punctuation mark at the end of the fight, I actually thought was quite nice.
Yeah.
This is this kind of moment to breathe.
Yeah. Like you needed a bit to humanize him if you were going to go with the ending that they did. So it worked really well.
Where what Mob has been trying to tell him just kind of hits him like a wave.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. It was really nice. And then they have the Turbo Kino moment where they flash back to Mob's hand extending.
Oh yeah, that was great.
But why didn't that guy go to jail? That's the real question. 0 out of 10.
What, Serizawa or Toichiro? Toichiro got arrested.
No. Serizawa.
Oh. He didn't do anything, technically.
He was...
There's this thing where they kind of shove all this destruction to the side, and you kind of just assume no one got killed and all of that, even as unlikely as that is.
They dropped a line about
they did have a very
president said they got evacuated, and I thought that was just a lie to get him to go along with it, but apparently that must just be true. I don't know.
They all took massive terrorist destruction very well.
There is this show goes out of its way to ensure the audience that nobody here actually is going to get killed.
Nobody dies in Mob Psycho. They just get very big boo-boos.
Yes.
Man has literal bonitis, lives to walk away.
I think in any other anime I would have a problem with that, but it's in fitting with the tone of this.
Yeah.
It's not actually an issue.
No, but it can be for me when they use the old Dragon Ball Z dub of, the fucking parachutes are just off screen.
I can see their parachutes. I think we're neglecting, by the way, that this show is still very funny.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
I mean, Reagan is one of the most hilarious anime characters ever.
Just the whole scene with him trying to do the exorcism on the TV show, him getting completely embarrassed
Two moments of secondhand embarrassment from the season, and that was one of them.
The fucking the part where Mob just gets up on stage and just says nothing.
It goes to like the glass painting animation of him just fading away.
I mean, that whole first episode was such a perfect tone setter for the season, because it's like, I don't want to say like the first season lacked heart, because it didn't, but I think it didn't get to the real heart of the story until this season. Like this season was like the perfect culmination of everything the first season had built up to.
Yeah.
This season really hammered home what the moral of the story here is.
Mm-hmm.
They really spelled it out like every other episode here.
Mm-hmm. And then I was talking about this to Collin earlier, because I mean, there's the whole broccoli thing, which was heavily foreshadowed in the opening of the first season. But it's like, I went back and watched that opening again, and there's so much more from the season in that opening, including like the fucking novel that he puts together with his psychic powers at the end of the first episode. Like, that's in that opening too. It's like, God damn it. It's so good.
Could Mob still be alive? Gotta check the OP. For the clues, for the hints, follow the mystery.
See, and it wasn't just the broccoli. It was the nuclear explosion turning into the broccoli, coming from fucking Mob's heart, where he kept the seeds. Like, that was in the opening too.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Anything else you want to gush about, Collin?
Well, let's see. I still think I know I don't want to downplay how much the animation has elevated some of the material for me. I mean, you guys are saying like you don't really care for the character in the Shimazaki fight, but I still think that that's a pretty creatively handled fight. You don't really get to see like one versus group fights like that very often. I love that kinetic.
You know what I really did enjoy about that fight? There's one shot where you're kind of looking at, I guess it would almost be, no, it's a third person perspective, but you're looking over his shoulder as he's punching, I think it's Nitsu, and it's while he's teleporting, but the camera just like sticks to his back, so you're seeing it almost from his perspective, and rather than like seeing a static shot of the environment and him teleporting around it, he's static and the environment around him is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And it's very smooth, and it's one shot, quote unquote, in the way that animation technically always is, but if it wasn't, there's no cuts.
Yeah.
And it looked very good, and it was it grabbed me immediately because it was a very unique way to present that, just amongst, because the whole fight, his entire engagement is in teleporting around, and like that one, it was like 3 seconds or so, was probably the most visually interesting for me of it all.
Yeah, but, and I think there's a wonderful sense of scale to some of these fights. Just the shot at the end of the episode, right, of episode 12, you see the building flying among all the rubble and destruction around them.
Mm-hmm.
I think you really get a sense for the level of power the characters have. There's a lot communicated just visually rather than the characters talking about it, which I think is great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. More Reagan's always nice.
Yeah,
he was actually, when you think about season 1, he's actually fairly out of focus for most of that season.
I think that's kind of what makes it so good at the end of season 1 when he has his moment.
When he shows up, because it's not really till that point where you really realize that he's an all right guy.
Right.
Uh-huh.
He's just kind of this, doofy side character almost, and then he's demands center stage right then. And from then on, you're hooked. And that, by working up to that point, getting that moment, and then going forward into season 2, that's what makes his arc all the more, resonant when you see the slight degradation in his relationship with Mob, because you had all that build up to it.
Yeah, the growth of Mob and Reagan, and even Dimple, you see like a lot of changes in as a character.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually pretty subtle.
Well,
They don't really stop to talk about him as he changed. They will eventually.
I liked how Dimple was the hero of the Mogami arc.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm misremembering the first season, but it seems like he deliberately and actively helps out a lot more in the second season, like straight up possessing people.
Yeah.
Getting into the physical engagements and stuff. This has a larger presence overall, in addition to just being more helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're really becoming friends right before our eyes.
Anyway,
Collin noticeably silent.
What?
Oh no! There's a betrayal, I'm sure. Not like this.
All right.
I like how Mob is just such an influential character that he's just able to make everybody good people. He just has the ability to make people good. Like he beats them up a bit, and then it's like, oh well, I guess I'm a shit.
Except Shimazaki. Shimazaki just shit his pants and ran away.
Oh yeah.
Mob is the exact right person to actually lead a cult. And despite the opportunity, he just doesn't.
I also the other thing is I do like how like this isn't exactly subtle. Like it's pretty obvious what they're trying to do here, but I do like how so many of the villains are like what Mob could have become had he not had the people in his life that he had.
Yeah. Get this music out of my hair. Jesus Christ.
And at one point, I forget who he says it to, but at one point he like drives that point home. He's like, nobody was here to give you this kind of advice, so I guess I'll do it. And then he proceeds to smack the fuck out of him.
Mm-hmm.
So just highlights that exactly.
Like Mogami is basically like what Mob could have become if he didn't have like the friends and stuff that he had, if like everybody just ignored him.
Yeah, and it's not such a hokey everyone is good message with that, because at the end of season 1, his last explosion is called gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And in Mogami it is about gratitude, being thankful that for what he has, that he basically has to admit, yes, I am lucky, yes, the world can be really shitty, but what you have constructed here for me is not what happened to me.
Right.
And instead of lamenting that, I should just be grateful. Lamenting that not everyone, gets to live a happy life, I should just be thankful for what I have. Mm-hmm. Which is great.
Yep.
Great has been called.
Good lesson for the kids.
It is a good lesson for the kids. It's an easy peasy Japanesey.
I liked at the end just the little mirror between what we've come to expect from the series, with Mob's percentage rising, and then the percentage of the how much power output the antagonist has during the fight. It didn't really have much meaning behind it, but it was just nice to see. After 2 seasons of Mob powering up, we see that on the opposite.
I still wish we could actually get the what is it? Kanji, Katanaka,
Kanji,
whatever it is, the Japanese lettering for
Kanji, and Kanji's actually Chinese.
Oh my god! For Mob's emotions, because in that final fight with Torichiro in the manga, when Mob is cycling through all these different emotions, you're getting the kanji for each one like blowing up on screen as each one gets to reappear, because you get to see rage and sadness and courage again. You get to see ecstasy.
Rage actually popped up in the show.
Oh, it did.
Yeah,
it did.
Only rage though.
But
that's the only cool one.
Yeah. Oh, you get resignation at the end when he starts twisting Toichiro's body around. But seeing that moment when courage reappears was awesome. The one where he gives the body improvement mantra.
Oh god. Yeah. That's just
Is the Body Improvement Club the real heroes?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, that one, they were able to fucking, like, hold that one guy back pretty much. For a bit there. Until Dimple takes over.
Yeah.
I'll admit, it would be completely nonsensical for it to go this way, and in fact, I probably would have taken umbrage with it. But
Umbrage has been called.
Umbrage has been called. But when the leader of the Body Improvement Club, when he like dives over Mob to protect him, and he starts his body starts getting larger and his muscles start expanding, I was kind of disappointed when it was revealed that was Dimple.
Oh.
I mean, obviously that guy doesn't have any powers. It would make no sense at all for that to be him. But I just wanted him to have his moment, even if he kind of already did by that display
I was almost expecting that he was suddenly gonna have ESP's powers.
They kept like the Shroud on just long enough.
Like that was going to be his moment where he gains his powers or something.
Yeah,
but then there was
it
like
makes the most
Dimple.
sense from what we know of the story and the characters for Dimple, but I'll admit I was just a tiny bit disappointed, but it was still a cool moment. I cannot take the umbrage just because it would have made no sense.
There's very little umbrage.
Umbrage has been withheld.
But overall, this season, much like the first season, was excellent.
This is probably one of the best anime sequels I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's what is the high tier of anime sequels? You got this and K-On! 2.
Yeah, you nailed it. Exactly. K-On! 2. K-On! double exclamation point.
No, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it's surprising because you can easily think of action-oriented shows how easily they can lose their steam or become samey. And even if I wasn't the largest fan of this last arc, it's still extremely quality television, much better than what you'll find in a lot of other places. So I can't even dock it that many points. In fact, I can quantify how many points I would dock it for that slight disappointment. It's a meager 1.
You heard it here first. 1 out of 10. Funk.
Oh my god.
It's the opposite. But party lines have been drawn in the sand. Sides have been taken. The world is changing. We have fallen into 2 groups here on how to evaluate Mob Psycho 102. One of us is right, and one of us is enthusiastic.
10 Chads.
10 here.
9 Squad.
9 Cucks.
The funny thing is, I honestly don't even think that the second season is like all that much better than the first. I think it's
the first one a 10, right?
I originally gave it a 9, and then I rewatched it again during like there was a stream on Twitch where they were streaming anime, and one of them was Mob Psycho, and I rewatched it again, and I was like, you know what? I don't know why I didn't give this a 10, so I'm just gonna give it a 10. And I feel like this one was pretty much just along the same wavelength of perfection.
It was really good.
Mob Psycho.
Mob Psycho.
All right. Colin's not going to say I gave it a 10 and move on with the play.
I clapped when Matt gave it a 10.
Oh, I see. I really thought you were like stomping on an insect or something.
You just keep hitting the home runs, Bones.
All right. The promised time has come to open up the floor. So who has a show they want to talk about?
Yeah, Steve?
I'm
just gonna hit that one. Hey, you guys can talk about whatever you want, but please talk about this show next.
You can actually talk about whatever you want.
Sure.
Wait, was Steve leading us on here?
Yeah, well, he used the word promised.
Oh. Well, in that case, I'm gonna go the other way on that one, and I'm gonna snatch the open floor, and we're gonna talk about some grade A disappointment. So, Mob Psycho, right? You think about it, and you're like, wow, you had a success, and then a repeated success taken to higher levels. And you think, wow, that's amazing to execute the same thing twice. But in the grand scheme of our reality, not only can successes be repeated and innovated upon, but so too can failures. So too who people have failed in the past can fail once more and take their failure to even lower depths. And thus, we enter into the second season of Kakegurui XX, as it's known, which it tells a very similar narrative to the first one in that you sign up, you watch the first, 2/3, 3/4 of it, and you're like, wow, this is a celebration of trash, of schlock. It's completely wonderful in all the wrong ways, and I'm in. And then you reach the very end of the season, and balls drop. Much like me during puberty, balls were dropped, and it just leaves the worst taste in your mouth. So before let's set the stage and talk about why the first half works as well as it does, because it does. This show is a complete and utter, again, just celebration of trash. Everything about it is just. Wait a second. My mean score updated. It's 6.67 now. This is not good. Anyway, this show, every episode has like shots taken from pornography or hentai, as it were. People are just moaning everywhere. The rules of the world just do not make sense in the slightest. Everybody is just, it's this show centered on gambling. They're gambling with impossibly high stakes in nonsensical ways with extremely questionable and sometimes divinely unknowable motivations. And despite all this, you don't care because it's highly entertaining. You just, much like the way some people enjoyed the early Saw movies, despite knowing that they had zero redeeming qualities or values as art or as experiences, so too can I enjoy the early episodes of Kakegurui XX and its first season. It's just a ride. It's a complete ride. As you go along, the ridiculousness of it all heightens and heightens and heightens, to the point where like people have constructed elaborate ways of having acting competitions that also constitute gambling, and none of it makes any sense. People are just pulling out twists and turns from their back pocket and up their sleeves, and everyone's like Machiavellian scheming with each other. And it's always just, you come to expect so many ass pulls that you would be shocked if anything was ever as it was, but not like in an intrigue kind of like well-written way, more like the trashy M. Night Shyamalan way. So it's just dumb. It's so dumb. It's incredibly stupid. And that's great. So that's great. You feast on that energy. You feast on it. Much like with a sports anime, the narrative might not be super great, but when you see the protagonist of a sports anime just yelling about putting all their energy into this one basketball shot or whatever, you're like, yeah, get him. It's a lot like that. You get swept up in it all. So it's completely astounding to me that both seasons have managed to construct these endings that sap all the momentum and the energy out of their respective seasons and replace them with pretty low concept plot devices and settings. It's awful. And so in the very last episode of this season, after going through things like, all right, we're going to gamble on who cuts off their finger, we're going to have this like idol singing battle in front of an audience, or we're going to do like a deep dive into game theory about amongst a group of people. It's like, okay, we're gonna flip a coin and we're gonna do gin rummy. That literally happens within
the entire season comes down to a fucking coin flip.
And it's
Which, in a way, is like the most pure form of gambling, but it's also really fucking dumb.
The way it's presented also does not even try to capitalize on that. Because knowing the main character, you could try to spin it that way, of like, you know, the coin's hanging in the air and you get her inner monologue and like her vagina's just gushing and gushing.
Literally gushing.
Literally gushing. I think at one point you see like mist fly out when she like throws her arms and it's just water goes everywhere, or some liquid, I should say. But no, it just, the coin flops up in the air, hard cut, different scene. And eventually one of the characters is like, oh yeah, the main character won the coin flip. Oh, great. Wonderful. I didn't need to see that. It was so, because I want to call it stupid because it is, but the whole season is stupid, right? The whole show is predicated on stupid.
A different breed of stupidity.
Yeah. So I remember in one of the later episodes, they show two characters putting their shoes into their shoe locker as they arrive at school, and like they have an interaction with another character. And just that like little reminder that they're actually at a school and have some kind of semblance of a daily life, it shattered my suspension of disbelief, because it's so much easier to imagine these characters living in a constant state of gamble euphoria. Like the moment you see one of them eating lunch, it's just it shatters the whole concept of the show, like what keeps it going. If you think of these people as people, then you have so many more questions and things make so much less sense. So yeah, but I'm not sure if in the last episode the reveal of that, not an antagonist, but that one girl's gender, I don't know if that's supposed to be a reveal or not.
Yes, it is.
That's ridiculous. There was never any doubt.
Yeah, I know.
Because they show like other female students being smitten with her, but the thing is, you see that all the time, of just like a cool, somewhat androgynous female character having adoring female fans. That's pretty normal. That's like a normal archetype. So that was a fumble. And yeah, I would not hesitate to say that nothing about the last two episodes worked at all. The auction game was more confusing than anything else, and the way that it was solved also made zero sense. I was expecting them to go with like a Morse code angle, but they didn't. Even though it was very heavily implied, and maybe that is the one thing that the show ever implied instead of saying outright. I don't know. But no, it was another just ass pull, but not because it was so mundane. It wasn't the satisfying kind of ass pull that the rest of the show has, where, you know, one character throws their head back and starts laughing, or has like an insanely smug look as their adversary loses their mind over being bested or whatever. You know, nothing like that. It's just kind of happens, and then they flip a coin.
So let's talk about not only the last two episodes, but the last 4 episodes.
The ones before that were the Idol arc?
No, it was the Tower of Yuri arc.
Oh, right, the Tower, yes.
Okay, so
Tower of Yuri.
And I know Funk remembers this, but at the end of the first season, it ended with an anime original episode that ultimately solved nothing, because how could it? It would ruin the story if it had any real stakes to it.
And it was basically ignored as the second season started.
Exactly, yeah. So up until the last 4 episodes, this season was largely an extension of what made the first season good, with just a different story arc of them doing the student council election thing through gambling, because everything is done through gambling.
Right.
And obviously one of the problems is this arc never gets resolved, because it's, you know, it doesn't conclude. They could not have concluded this arc. I believe it's actually still ongoing in the manga, so you don't get any resolution to anything that happens in the season anyways. But worse than that, you get to episodes 9 and 10, which is the Tower of Yuri arc. And this arc actually takes place in the manga between the end of the first season and the beginning of the second season. And this is a problem, because the events of that arc have nothing to do with the election. It is basically, in this season, like a side story that really has no influence on anything else, because they put it in the wrong order. And I guess they wanted to put it towards the end of the season because it's like, I guess, the most dramatic thing they had.
Right. And it, like, strictly speaking, as far as wrong order is concerned, it's not. They've changed the setup to it to actually take place within this time frame,
Yes.
but the results of it and what happens during it are so agnostic of this season's student council election or whatever it is. So yeah, you're right. That makes complete sense. I didn't think of that when I was watching it, but yeah.
Like, the actual game they played was kind of interesting, but then they also had a cop-out at the end.
Well, it wasn't even gambling. Do you really want to get up there?
No, it wasn't. Well, I mean, if you're betting your life, it's gambling, but
That's
the cop-out
bullshit.
was no one was actually betting their life.
Yeah. And the auction, for what it's worth, also was not gambling.
Because the auction, as it turns out, those last 2 episodes, also anime original. That entire character of Batsubami, the ambiguous gender one, also her character anime original. So if you want to start with the problems of those last 2 episodes, yeah, anime original, because you can easily tell that because at the end of the episode, all the votes that she wins ends up being gambled away to a bunch of nobodies off screen because she can't have them because she doesn't have them in the manga, right? So if they do another season, they have to like essentially ignore the events of these episodes again. So the fact that you have the last 4 episodes of the show, 1/3 of this season, taken up on a side story that has nothing to do with the overall story, and an anime original arc that's events are going to be ignored, like, that's kind of inexcusable. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I get it, because they can't, like, they have to cut it off at some point, but it's just so immensely frustrating that it just feels like 1/3 of my time was wasted. And this is coming from a point of enjoying the show in spite of all its ridiculousness.
Right.
But it's just botched so incredibly.
And it was botched
I just
the
can't believe
exact
it.
same way as the first season was.
Yeah, like they didn't learn their lesson. And I guess, the lesson is don't adapt this if you can't really adapt it well, but, that's not always how things work. But just the fact that it happened again is just inexcusable to me.
It's really something, I'm kind of impressed in how they managed to not only not learn anything but create new problems.
Double down on it.
yeah. And the thing is, like, that the second last arc, the one out of time, it in and of itself I don't think was all that bad, but because of its place in the season, and well, basically just because of where it came and versus what your expectations were, it loses a lot of its steam. But the actual events to it I found engaging while I was watching it. It's just superfluous or vestigial. Yeah,
the whole concept of the auction itself was just so much lower stakes than anything else in the show. It's like, right. I like, right as they introduced it, I was like, I'm not really invested in this.
It was also just confusing. Like, yes. They explained it, but it wasn't very clear. And they're like, okay, even if every bid you lose, I think was the idea. Even if you don't win, you still lose your bid. Which is, like, fine, but they don't show the amount of votes that everybody has. So at one point, one of the main characters is like, oh, I'm out, I don't have anything. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that. I like having, and the show is usually pretty good about this, about having visualizations on people's money, or like different turns in a game, like a little text will pop up and say turn 5, and it's like stylized. And,
I feel like that went away a lot this season.
Yeah, so because that would have really helped, seeing every time a character puts a bid, seeing their total trickle down a bit. Maybe it's just because of the math behind it, like they would have had to calculate who has what.
Which
I don't know.
They really didn't have to anyways, because they just get rid of the votes anyways. So
yeah,
again, it's just a problem of the entire creation of that arc.
So nothing about that last auction worked at all. And I guess that's why, just because it wasn't the same person creating it as everything else. So that's probably why oh my goodness, it was disappointing.
Yeah.
Whew.
Like, it's not like I was hugely invested in the show to begin with, but it's like I still came away disappointed.
It's very easy, I think, to have a situation where you're disappointed by the show, because it's a very clear thing that you want from it. You just want just visceral, high stakes ridiculousness. And I guess that's not always the easiest to achieve, but it's a very clear reaction when you don't get it. It's just about the emotion behind it. I just want to feel amped up. I just want to be like, whoa. I don't want to be sitting there trying to calculate vote totals. Like, all right, well, how much does he have? It's minus 30, just while the show is still playing on because I'm just so disengaged with it.
I just wanted to feel like my time was respected, and then it clearly was not towards the end.
No. I think the early parts of the season, once again, were quite enjoyable. That's why I recommended this show. I recommended this. I made this. And I would recommend that. I'd recommend the first season on the whole still. But yeah. So I want to ask you about something. I remember you mentioned like, oh, they have another idol arc. I think this one worked a lot better than the one in the first season.
Yeah, I think so too. It was a much more interesting antagonist they had to go up against.
Yeah, and just the games were also better. I liked the stupid macaron thing. I thought that was actually a pretty inventive way of having not only like a show of acting, but like an acting gamble.
Yeah.
And they kind of blew through the song contest pretty briskly, so that didn't even detract from the pacing. Although I never noticed that the name of their idol unit was so embarrassing. It's like this. What was it? Something creaming girls. What was the first part?
I don't remember, but it's probably best that I don't.
Yeah, but it was. I never noticed that. That got a chuckle. Again, it's perfectly in line with the show. Something as stupid as that, and that's what I sign up for. So that's fine. Getting bored, that is not fine, and that's ultimately the cardinal sin that the ending of both seasons commits.
Yep. So,
I gave both seasons a 6. Maybe this one should get a 5 just because its last 4 episodes were lacking instead of its last 2. So that actually probably sounds better. And you know what? That'll lower my mean score a bit. Hopefully get that to 6.66.
It all works out.
That's the 666, baby.
Funk just can't win. Every show he makes is a stinker, boys.
I mean, that's fine. I'm perfectly okay just recommending and producing shows that are not taking risks, but more of taking a risk on recommending them rather than these surefire. Like, yeah, of course Mob Psycho is going to be fucking great. Of course it is. But something that I don't know, but just has the potential, I'll take a risk on that.
I guess we could say Funk's a real high roller.
Okay, I got a question for Collin and Matt.
Oh.
Okay.
Who is the quintessential quintuplet? There's a clear answer to this.
Actually,
don't need to struggle.
My clear answer is probably going to be a lot different than your clear answer based off of what you discussed.
Oh boy. Okay, I want to hear it then.
I'm gonna have to say, and I'm surprised by this myself, but I'm gonna have to say Ichika.
Okay, that's fair.
Steve holding back the judgment.
No, there's a right answer, but there was also a wrong answer. Mac picked neither. At least he didn't pick the wrong answer.
Is the wrong answer Nino?
The wrong answer is Nino.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Collin and I are on the same page. We're on Team Miku.
Can we all agree here that Nino is the absolute fucking shittiest girl of all time?
Nino is irredeemable, and absolutely. I believe she's like the second most popular one. That's baffling.
That is baffling to me. Like, people like the girl who is by far the most fucking shallow, and her whole thing is, I like blonde dudes. That's it.
We're going to get more into what the show is, but I just want to say I appreciate that they at least gave her a compelling reason to fall for the protagonist, because it seemed like for a while she was not going to have one, and I give the show a lot of credit for at least bringing her around in a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still worst girl, and like what she does at the very start of the show and drugging him made her completely irredeemable.
She's a fucking cunt.
I wasn't gonna say it, but you're not wrong.
So look, this first season, I haven't read the manga. I'm not gonna say I read the manga. But this first season seems to give Miku a lot of material. Miku just kept getting away with it. It's really hard to say anyone other than her is best girl. Again, the best one next to her is definitely Ichika. So it's either that one or the other one.
And then you have Itsuki, aka Sir, not appearing in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve for a while there was thinking, okay, look, Itsuki is the main girl, so I'm not really sure. Like he thought Miku was the best from the start, but he also had given up on Miku being the winner. Now, Steve, how do you feel about that now?
I mean, see,
at least on Itsuki. Like, how do you feel about Itsuki being the winner? As I remain thoroughly unconvinced that is currently a possibility.
So here's the thing. One of the reasons I said to watch the show, because I think I was the first one to watch it, was like, okay, this is going to be one of those shows where we can have good arguments about best girl. And then it became very clear right away there was a clear winner. But I do really, really appreciate that the show takes the time and spaces it out enough that it's giving compelling reasons for each character to actually fall for this guy. And there are compelling reasons why each character could potentially win. So, right away, you have a harem comedy that's just avoiding a lot of the problems that this genre tends to fall into. It also helps that they created a male protagonist who is not shit. Like, he has his own things that he's interested in. He's not just there for the girls. In fact, he's clearly not there for the girls and comes around the same way they come around. But
yeah,
they also... It felt actually genuinely organic for these girls to fall for him. A lot of it was accidental. Like he would do things that were kind of romantic without him realizing it. He's still dense in the way a protagonist often is, but he's not super dense to the point where he doesn't completely get it. He has his moments. Mm-hmm. But if you watch a lot of these shows, which I know you guys necessarily don't, but I fucking have in my time, almost all of them just have the girls fall for the protagonist right away for no reason, because he has no redeeming qualities that you could see a girl would be interested in. You can see it with him. And the fact that this show was able to craft that from the beginning gives it such a leg up in this genre. Even putting aside the fact that it's actually kind of created some actually very likable girls, with one exception.
Yeah,
it's like I said, I can see reasons why each one would fall for him, and I think that's to the show's credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think two things the show does really well is that the main character develops along with the girls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like he goes through a noticeable change.
He's not just a wet blanket.
He's not just a quote nice guy.
I can't like that. Like that's part of the reason why I was not so enthused about what was it? Well, shows like what was that fantasy show, Steve, that you picked during our anime club with the like the elf girl and like
Outbreak Company.
Outbreak Company. Like you have these shows like Outbreak Company or even Arrow Manga Sensei, where you have a main guy who's just such a boring fucking sack of shit. He has no
typical light novel protagonist.
He has no personality. At least here we have a guy who's like almost getting to the point where he's channeling Okabe. But not quite there, but he's still likable just because he's kind of over the top, and he's not here for the girls. He's here because he just wants to get fucking paid. He just wants to do his job.
Yeah, and he's got his own issues that he's got to fucking work through.
Mm-hmm.
And they improve him as much as he improves them.
Right.
Also, the other thing it does well is that there's a carrot dangling at the end of a stick here.
Yes.
In this anime.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of these shows, which will never get a clear resolution, this one, it doesn't get it in this season, but the manga will eventually have one.
Yeah. You know right away one of them is going to win. And you got a little element of mystery. Like maybe you want to try and decipher all these things. Like, no, it's her. It's her.
You know, I was thinking about this. And you know what would be the biggest, like kick in the dick for the author to do?
What's that?
is so we have this whole thing about like him having this picture of a red-haired girl in his student handbook.
Mhm.
I was thinking, how great would it be if none of them are that girl, and he meets her later in the manga, and she's the one who ends up winning.
That would piss off a lot of people.
That would be the biggest.
That would please no one.
That would please me. I'd be happy with that. That would be so hilarious to me that would win me over.
Anime anarchist over here.
But I mean, obviously that's
acted
not
like the Joker.
absolute. That would be perfect.
So one other thing I want to praise the show for before I talk about its biggest problem is that this does have some amount of wacky harem hijinks in it, but most of them are typically resolved in an orderly fashion. It doesn't drag them out to the point where they become obnoxious.
I like that there's a part where he fell on top of a girl, and at no point did he accidentally grope her breast.
And it was resolved by the end of the episode.
Are you saying he intentionally
let's not
groped her
hold our
breast?
breath, That could come up later.
I mean, yeah, that could. And no.
It's still a harem show.
Okay. That's fair. But I just wanted to praise it for that because, like, so many of these shows just introduce these problems that just never get resolved or just drag on way too long, and then you're just frustrated with everything. This has characters who react to them in a reasonable manner.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like... What was that show where the guy wanted revenge and everything was stupid?
Yes.
Masu whatever, revenge.
Masamune-kun's Revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like that show. Yeah. Oof.
Okay, so let's talk about this show's biggest problem, and it has a lot to do with its adaptation of the manga. So in the manga, all of the girls, because they're identical quintuplets, look the same, have the same hair color, have the same voice, right? And a lot of the humor in the manga is drawn from the situations that you can create with 5 characters who look the same, right?
Can the reader tell them apart?
Yes, they have different hairstyles.
Oh, okay.
The hairstyles are the only thing that are different.
Yeah, but canonically, they all have the same hair color, which is the thing that threw me for a loop in the first episode when they introduced the concept of the bride. I was like, oh, it's clear the one with the same hair color wins. But no, because they all have the same hair color, even though the anime portrays them with different hair colors for, marketing purposes or whatever, or just being easy for the viewer to tell.
Because the audience
from
is
the other.
Stupid, and they need to
the
know
audience
which
is
girl
stupid,
is
yes.
which. They're not going to know which one is which if they have the same hair color.
But in terms of, like, creating characters to sell to people, it does work better to have them be visually different.
I mean, that is true.
But there's this one show called Osomatsu-san.
Yes, I know. And that like is amazing how well that pulled it off. But I think I also read at some point that they were originally going to just cast one actress as all 5 girls, and they quickly backtracked on that because of how difficult it would be on her voice.
Oh yeah.
But it just leads into this problem where a lot of the humor doesn't translate as well because they made all 5 girls visually different, because a lot of the gags play upon the fact that they look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Even going to the point in the last episode where they lied about Itsuki's hair color. They colored her hair the same as Ichika's for that gag. They just had to go to lie for it for that joke to work. So it's just something you have to keep in mind while watching this show, because sometimes it can take you out of it if you're not fully aware of that. But that is just like the one nagging thing that just comes up every now and then, just because it can't be perfectly translated from the manga.
Could have been.
Maybe, but
I mean, it'd be fine if they all had different voices, but like changing the hair colors, it was dumb. It was a dumb idea.
Especially when there are jokes where they're just wearing wigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the show. Like, I go into a lot of these harem comedies with like a ton of skepticism because they all typically are the same, and this one elevated itself like a notch above those. And created one of the best waifus potentially of the year. So I'll give it
Oh
credit for
there,
that.
son. Let's be cool and bring it off.
Well, okay, Matt,
Didn't know Steve
why
liked Nina that much.
why Ichika, Matt?
Well, first off, about Miku. Miku to me feels almost like fake. Like I like this is like you know in the Pokemon movie when they have Mewtwo like scientifically engineering a perfect Pokemon, like that's Miku. she's like the scientifically engineered perfect waifu. She's like tailor made to be the waifu, and it's like it just feels very like whole like after her arc, her whole character is just, oh, I'm blushing because I'm nearby Futaro.
But she's bad at cooking, Matt. So
like that's her whole character.
Gotta marry her.
That's her whole character after that point, and it just kind of makes her feel very uninteresting.
I don't necessarily think that's true because like her character arc is grappling with her feelings because she's the first one to really develop them, and then ending the season with her declaration of that is like that is her character arc.
I guess it also doesn't help that like I've kind of grown past the whole I'm the shy one thing. Like
that's fair. Everyone has different tastes.
It's just kind of like she just kind of annoyed me. Like,
so
for some reason, every time it would like there'd be a scene where like Futaro would come in and she was there and she would just like look away and blush. I would just groan, yeah. You're so special, girl.
But that does actually tie into something else that I liked about the show, because you guys talked about how, or Steve talked about how that's part of her arc, sort of accepting that she's the first one to fall for him, and I talked about this years ago, how I don't like when in a harem show the girl's only relationship with one another is competition for the guy, whereas in this show, you know, they're already tightly knit before they meet him. Obviously, they're siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, I thought that scene at the end with Miku and Ichika was kind of sweet. And
yeah, it was nice. Like I will say
just
that
sort of having them like talk it out, develop.
I will say she's still like leagues better than fucking Nino or Itsuki.
Well, again, they just let Miku run away with so much. It's
Yeah.
it's literally not fair, bros.
Like my thing with Ichika though is like what I liked about both Ichika and Yotsuba is that they're actually nice and they're not just complete assholes from the beginning. Like you have this guy who's legitimately trying to help you fucking study, or else you're gonna flunk out. And their immediate reaction is, let's drug him and force him to go back home. Like, really?
One of them was. And also I can understand Itsuki because he initially rejected
Like,
him.
I can understand that, yes. I can understand Itsuki kind of being a bitch to him because he was being an asshole to her. But the other characters have no reason to act the way they're acting towards him, other than just being cunts. Yotsuba is actually...
Yote the goat?
Huh?
I said Yote the goat.
Yeah. Yotsuba is legitimately just trying to help him. And then Ichika...
Well, I don't know. I think she was just more along for the ride. She wasn't opposed to it.
Yeah, I guess so. Like she just kind of is... She just kind of wants to see what happens, I guess. I don't know. She's just the ditzy one. And then Ichika is like the... Ichika is like the mommy waifu character, I guess.
I mean, she's the older sister, and she plays that role exactly like you would expect.
Right. And she's like what I like about her is that she just has I feel like she was the one who had like the most believable character arc and development to me, to make me actually like out of all of them, like she was the one where if she was the one who ends up winning in the end, I would be like, yeah, that's believable. I can see that. The other ones I'm not so sure with. I don't know where the manga goes.
I mean, I can see how some of them are already there and how some of them will get there.
Yeah, but like she felt like the most Like it felt like she had a lot of like the most natural. Like
Yeah.
Whereas the others kind of felt a little forced at times.
Ichika's is stretched out over the course of the season more.
Yes. Whereas
originally she's just trying to help out Miku, and then she kind of ends up falling for him along the way.
Right. Also, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't use the word stretched out when talking about waifus.
Oh my god.
No.
I don't know. I just think she had the most. She also felt like the most believable as an actual character, and not just like this stereotype.
No.
I mean, they're all stereotypes.
They're all stereotypes, but it feels like she had the most like actual personality. She had an actual personality more than that, and it felt like she actually had she has a personality. She has her own worries. She has her own interests. She has her own goals. She felt like a person, whereas I can't really say the same for the other characters so much. Like they kind of just felt like this is an anime character. I don't know.
It is. I see where you're coming from, but I do think that's a bit harsh. Like her character is very much the One-san. Like that's straight up what it is, and she plays that like I said, exactly like you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they do enough with all the characters that makes them go a bit beyond their stereotypes. Some more than others.
I do like one thing I really appreciated that no other show does was the bit of self-awareness it had at the end, where at the very end when they all like hold his hand or like hold his fingers, I guess. Itsuki says a line where she's like, "I barely know you, but I hope I get to know you more." And I'm just like, thank you for acknowledging the fact that you don't fucking know this guy yet.
That's a good catch.
Hey, fuck Nino.
Fuck Nino.
Yeah, that's something we can all agree on.
Nino Kuni was awful.
Hey, wait a minute, Funk.
Yeah.
Before we move on from this, because we've spent a strange amount of time on this harem comedy. All right, so the firstborn quintuplet is named Ichika, right? And the second one, Nino? And the second one is named Nino, right?
Okay. What's the third one?
But see, okay, you gotta walk me through this here, because the next three are named Miku, Yotsuba, and Itsuki.
Yes. That's exactly yes. So, if you're familiar with the Japanese numbers, ich, ni, san, shi, go, but all kanji, and there's also kanji for the numbers, have different ways of reading them. If they are by themselves, if they are with other kanji, and sometimes if they're combined with other kanji, but they both have their own distinct meaning, they all have different readings. Some have 2, 3 more. So, sun can also be read as mi. So, like, instead of saying 3 things, it wouldn't be sansu, it would be mitsu. 4 is either shi or yon or yo with like a small cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
5 can be go. It can be so like 5 things would be itsutsu. If actually like 5 days, it's like what was it? I forget. But it could also be itsu. So that makes complete sense. So yes, they are numbered.
I figured there was something like that to that. So thank you. We've all learned something today, except Funk, who already knew.
Yes.
I will say there was a missed opportunity for Kino in that last episode, Collin, where they were doing the countdown, and they didn't cut to each of the quintuplets when they said their number. I was a bit disappointed by that.
Question. I'm looking at a picture here. Which is the one with the short hair? She looks like the best.
That's
Ichika.
Ichika.
Wait. Which short hair one? There are 2 short hair ones.
The shortest hair one.
The shorter hair. That's Ichika.
Does their hair get progressively longer as they age?
No.
Oh, that would be funny.
You know what's funny is when I first started watching the show, like when it went to the part with Ichika, and she had like the shitty messy room, and she was she seemed like the slutty one at first. I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna end up liking this one. And it's like, oh, wait a minute.
That's the DL girl.
Oh no. He likes the sluts.
No, the
DL would totally pick Nino.
No, DL would pick Nino. DL's the one who what's the character in what's it called? That fucking match 3 game.
Honey Pop?
Honey Pop, yeah.
Honey Pop. Who's the character he likes?
Audrey.
He's the guy who likes Audrey. There's no way in hell.
A lot of people like her though, but I guess that also explains why a lot of people like Nino.
There's no way he would not pick Nino. Like he's the guy who would like totally go with Nino.
I went into this show thinking that I don't really care who wins, but I would be actually very angry if Nino won.
Well,
any other character?
Look, there could be more to her character that they just haven't gotten to yet. I know we joke, but there could be more.
No, it would not change my opinion.
All right, whatever. I'm open-minded about it. Honestly, she might end up being all right
yet.
Irredeemable.
So wait, one last thing.
Yes.
Okay. So other harem shows. They always got to go by this rote by the numbers thing. They got to try to appeal to different crowds in terms of body types. Like we got to have the petite one, the huge one, the one in between. I respect this man behind this show, behind this manga. This man has a type. He's all like, fuck it, 5 of them. 5 of them.
They're all just titty monsters.
They're all
They are quintuplets, so it even canonically checks out.
Bless the author.
Yes, bless this man. Mad respect to you.
Bless this
and your love of Boo.
All right, we'll take a break now, and then we'll come back with more anime.
Great, I gotta pee.
I gotta watch.
Hello, and welcome back to the Luckycast. All right, open floor time. What should you guys want to talk about? I'll talk about anything you guys want to talk about.
Did other anime air this season?
Apparently. I know you only watched one other one, but
hey,
if you want to talk about it now, we can, or we can put it off to later.
I'm not influencing the way things are going here.
I'm gonna let's see. I don't want to cap off Funk too soon.
Colin's gonna bust the cap in me.
Yeah, I don't want to cap off Funk too soon, so I'm gonna veer away from Neverland. Let's see, Steve. You discussed Shield Hero on the last podcast.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. But how do you feel about the direction the show took after the first 4 episodes? Which, by the way, we recorded our last podcast for everyone listening at home. We recorded our last podcast right at that 4th episode or something, right?
Yeah, we recorded earlier than normal, so we only got a 4-episode sample, and, I still stand by what I said about that first arc, but I should also admit, and I know you dropped it at, what, episode 7, Collin?
Episode 7 or 8.
Okay, I just most recently watched episode 7 because I fell very behind on this show, and I have not gotten farther than that either. And I'm not gonna lie, like it does feel, the 3 episodes after that first arc feel very directionless, and I'm not sure how I feel about the show right now. I'm still going to try and catch up on those episodes I missed, and at least try and get to the halfway point of this show. I believe it's 24 or 25 episodes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it did not necessarily instill me with confidence. In the last 3 episodes I watched, they introduced a new party member who's a big bird that turns into a lolly girl. And
whoa,
big bird.
Slow it up. All right, continue. I processed it.
Okay. And then they go on some misadventures, and the guy basically becomes like a traveling merchant as well as the shield hero, and it's like, I really don't know where this show is going. It still has the overall conflict of beating the waves of evil enemies that come every month or so. But like in the downtime between that, it doesn't feel like they're going to fill it with much of interest.
Yeah, it feels a great deal. I mean, you accept that it's generic to begin with, but it feels much more generic after that first 4 episodes.
It feels like really it could have escaped that genericness.
It's just going through the isekai motions.
Yeah.
It feels like, because in those first 4 episodes, I don't think I had watched it yet in the previous podcast. Obviously, it has your typical shitty isekai world building where it's just a video game, and they say, "Oh, it's just like a video game," and suddenly that's just all your world building that you fucking need. But it did have, when you hear about like, oh, the controversy about the false rape accusation, right?
I love that voice.
I was
The Hank Hill voice.
That's not fucking Hank Hill. Get the hell out of here.
Basically is.
Anyway, you hear people bitching about that, and I was really, really fearful that I was going to end up being that guy.
Because, as often happens.
As often happens, where I am unfortunately lumped in with a group of people, because even though I think their rhetoric is all wrong, but I still think something was executed poorly.
That's fair.
But this wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. That whole false rape accusation, where my fear was that after he got, cast out, and right after that, he'd still be like your typical generic anime nice guy who helps everyone out no matter what. But no, it actually does affect him and his ability to trust people. And by episode 4, you kind of have a cap off on that arc where he begins to heal a little bit and grow. I'm like, okay, wow. Look at that. You handled that rather nicely. And then the next episode opens with him, or with the main girl getting her slave brand back.
Here we go.
Because if you guys don't know, the main girl is bought as a slave, and she has a brand that compels her to obey the main character's orders. And in the episode 4, she gets it removed by another character. And then in episode 5, she gets it back as like a memento of their relationship or something.
She willingly gets it back.
She willingly gets it back. It's a brand that hurts her if she disobeys. Look. Okay. I accept that there's a level of indulgence when I watch shows like this. I mean, we just talked about a harem comedy, right? Mm-hmm. There's a level of indulgence that you get to enjoy in those shows, and it's fine, right? But it feels like they sacrificed too much character for the sake of that indulgence. No one would ever do. The brand hurts her if she disobeys. Oh, the brand hurts me if I go against his orders, but I know he won't. I know I'll never, ever, ever do anything.
Is this the DL audience we're trying to appeal to?
I don't know. I just feel like almost condescended to when I watch something like that.
I think if I may interject,
because see, like, her staying with him is enough, right? Her staying with him as his companion, as someone who loves him, is enough.
If I may interject, I think it's because I think that mechanic is that way because they wrote it as an actual game mechanic. And I don't know if the show spells this out specifically, but I feel like it was the case where because she is his slave, that is how he can earn experience, because he cannot fight on his own because he's the shield hero. So he needs someone to fight for him and earn experience for him. And I realize you could probably write around that a better way, but I feel like because the author committed to that, that's kind of how it has to go.
All right, at least so it is somewhat justified in the context of the narrative, but like the actual reason it exists is because people want a slave girl GF.
Yeah.
I don't think I can dispute that. Like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, and look, if someone out there, if you're watching Shield Hero and you're still enjoying Shield Hero, that's great. Like, again, there are shows that I watch that I accept are trash and I still enjoy anyway. They are indulgent.
I mean, I don't know,
but I just
capacity this will come up again. So
I just don't want to argue with people that it's good. You know, it's so. I mean, there are just shows that I think have objective qualities that I feel are bad, but I enjoy anyway. And I feel like, you know, even in these post episode 4 episodes, that character Raftalia, what's her name? Yeah, she's just, you know, Reptar has definitely been reduced. By the time you get to that episode where it's her adventures with, how the fuck do I pronounce the bird? Her adventures with the bird. Where her existence is just to drool over the main character's dick.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Which again, you know, if you like that, you like that. If you just want to accept that, hey, that's what I want to see, that's fine.
I would say it doesn't bother me, but
it's just from when I'm talking about storytelling, that I don't think that's good storytelling.
Yeah, I it doesn't bother me, but I can see why it bothers you.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that's necessarily the show's biggest problem either. I just think they have, like, at least from what I've watched so far, they haven't been able to follow up with anything interesting. Yeah. And maybe that'll change. Like I said, I'm still going to keep watching it, but I can certainly understand why you dropped it when you did.
Anyway, I really didn't want to be that guy. And I wasn't that guy in the way that I thought I was going to be that guy. But I still sort of ended up being that guy, which fucking sucks. Because I never want to be that guy. I just want to say, man, I like boobies. I just want to be that guy.
God, you can definitely say that here.
I like boobies.
Nice.
Fun times. Anything else?
Excuse me, Collin, but on this day, you should be reflecting on your toxic masculinity rather than talking about how much you like boobs.
That's okay. That's stealth, an amazing April Fool's joke.
You can think about it like that, but it is most definitely sincere.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe they were pranking themselves.
How many layers of irony are on here?
Yeah. Matt and I had the same thought.
Oof.
We good, Collin?
Yeah, we good.
All right.
Any other shows?
So our next show is about a high school boy named Natsuo.
Oh, God.
Who falls in love with his teacher named Hina.
Oh, boy.
Is this pornography?
We'll get there.
It looks like it.
We'll get there.
Like, visually, it looks like a hentai from 2010.
Let me do my bit.
Okay.
So, realizing his feelings will never be returned, or so he thinks, he goes out and sleeps with a girl at a mixer named Rui. Turns out that Hina and Rui are actually sisters. And Natsuo's dad is marrying their mother, and now they're siblings. So, Collin, what did you think of Domestic Girlfriend?
That's
Spanish
the
guitar
premise of
in the
show?
distance.
That is the premise of that show.
Oh my god. It's like, people keep talking about how there's like a trend recently in incest pornography, and it's reached the Japs too.
What do you mean reached? I feel like they reached over to us.
They're the innovators.
Yeah. This is a bit of an incestual reach around.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we definitely need the soundtrack to Gankutsuo playing in here. Because with every plot turn, we need that guitar. Dun, dun, dun.
Listen, for a show that has the plot of a hentai and is handled with the grace of a soap opera, this was surprisingly decent.
Yeah. There was never really a point where I was not interested to see what would happen next. Although I think my biggest problem is the main character himself, Natsuo. Mm-hmm. Basically, a lot of the things we were just complaining about with that Futaro did not subscribe to, I feel like we could pin on Natsuo. He does not feel like much of a character. I don't understand. Like you never really get a feel for why the women would really fall for him. What are his appealing qualities really?
He's a novelist, or wants to be one. That's it. That's his character.
Like that. Yeah. With Rui, it makes a little bit more sense because she's a teenager and she's impulsive and she's just he's the only person that she's ever been intimate with.
Yeah. Which was like such an interesting way to start off a show with two characters sleeping together. Like, when did that happen in anime?
Yeah. In fact, now that you said that, I can't get this out of my head here. Is that a lot of the praise we could lob at this show is just because it's different comparatively to other anime. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you were to compare it to maybe some other stories similar from overseas, right? Maybe it's not that good. I'm not quite sure. I haven't really pondered that too much. Perhaps we can just applaud it for being different. It
tackles a lot of issues, especially regarding relationships, that a lot of anime don't want to tackle, and when they do, don't tackle it well. Yeah. And when you hear the premise of the show, there's no way you would think that the show could handle these subjects with any amount of grace, but it does. And it does so in a way that it develops some of the characters extremely well. Like, yeah,
it's surprisingly realistic.
Yes.
Like, is there anyone you were about to touch on?
It's like both Rui and Hina are developed in different ways. But, like, the draw of the show to me was just how invested I became in their characters. And right. I've even heard from other people the manga does it way better because the anime skips a lot of stuff. But I never felt that way while watching the show. It felt like both of those characters arrived to the feelings that they did in spite of the main character in very natural ways. Mm-hmm. God, there was another point I was going to say, but I forgot it. So if there's something you want to say, go ahead.
I also like that there are real consequences to all of the actions in the show.
Yes. In some ways that, like, bummed me out, but yes.
Yes. It can be a little hard to watch sometimes.
When I was talking about secondhand embarrassment earlier, when fucking Hina gets called into the office, like, my heart just sank because I knew where that was going. Like, it's the only place the show could have gone, but, like, the fact that, like, they spent all this time putting those characters together only to rip them apart immediately did bum me out a lot.
And you definitely feel for some of the younger two characters, definitely, because they keep wanting to think that they got it all figured out, but they don't.
Yeah.
My God, they don't.
Oh, so one thing.
No, go ahead.
So the thing I was going to say in regards to, like, the subjects of the show that I forgot, particularly with the, like, issue of, like, infidelity, I appreciated that the show did not just stand there and take, like, moral grandstanding on this issue or any of the other issues. Like, characters do that, but also are presented with the other side of these issues and actually contemplate what it means and how they feel about it. It's not just this is bad, so these characters feel this way forever. Yeah. There's
definitely surprising amount of maturity that they handle that with, especially intimacy, and sort of the emotional fallout that could come from that. Because Rui tries to discard her V card very flippantly, and some people they've been able to do that. I'm not going to speak for everyone in the whole fucking world. Maybe Funk over here.
Oh my God.
Can just ride the thought carousel.
Well, I've never.
But when you, I'm sorry, I'm trying my best not to get super sappy here, which is why I keep pausing. I'm trying to find my words. Like, how do I word this without sounding super sappy? But my problem is that I really can't. But so when you give your body over to someone, your body and your mind aren't really separate things, right? You can't really help the sort of reaction that you have. And so Rui ends up developing these feelings for someone that she barely even really knows, because she's not even really used to intimacy to begin with. And it's sad to see what happens to her and what she goes through. You just get mad. There's that scene with her on the bed, right? Yeah. Where she rests her head on his lap and you're like, oh, you fucking dick. You piece of shit. How could you do that to her? Like, I'm turning into a housewife from the 1990s watching her soaps. Like, I can't take this. What are you doing to me? Fucking domestic Kanojo.
Colin, if you liked that show, flip when you find out about The Bachelor.
Okay, so one thing I definitely have to bring up here is that, like, in spite of all the good things this show does, it also falls victim to a lot of the same kind of tropes you get from romantic comedies. Specifically, the absurd number of times that you get drama drawn out of people not closing their doors and windows. Like 3 separate incidences of people being caught doing illicit activities because they couldn't shut a fucking door or close goddamn curtains on their windows. It is absurd, and it's like it takes you out a bit, especially when it happens in back-to-back episodes. But it's just like, come on. You can do a bit better than this, especially because everything else is written like a step above that level. I just had to rant about that.
No, that's perfectly valid. I mean, it is melodramatic.
Like, you can get away with that once, but 3 times, it's pushing it.
These people need to learn. Although, you know, when it comes to issues of sex, people never really learn.
That's true.
Maybe that's what this show's really trying to talk about.
Just don't kiss your sister with the door open. That's all I'm saying.
Solid point.
Words to live by.
Is that a light novel title?
It will be soon enough.
I kissed my sister with the door open. Now
Now
I got caught. I don't know.
Now I'm a slime.
Yeah, Matt. I was talking to Matt about this earlier, and it's like I was telling him, like, this is a show that, like, you're not necessarily missing anything by not watching, and I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to recommend it, but it is a decent show. It is way better than I thought it would be.
From the premise, it basically sounded like something very similar to Kuzu no Hankai.
It actually is similar in a way. It's not as artistically directed or, you know, anything like that. Like that show is definitely a step above this one, but this show also deals with some of the same topics that does, just in more of a soap opera-ish manner.
Right.
So it takes away everything that was good about that show in how mature and realistic it felt.
Yes.
So it's not as good.
It's not as good, but
It's somewhere in between Kuzu no Hankai and NTR.
Now, when you say NTR, do you mean the genre or the show?
I mean the show.
Okay.
What's that called? Netsuzo Trap or whatever?
yeah.
Oh god.
Hey, we should rename this show Repentant Roasties.
Oh my god.
What, our podcast?
No. But maybe. Funk, do you repent? Do you repent the thought carousel? After
I have no regrets, and I never will.
the true villain.
The true villain's DL. Let's be clear here. There's a reason I name drop him.
All right, that's about all I had to say on the show. Anything else you got, Collin?
No. I didn't have much to say to begin with.
Yeah,
You just led that one. I let you take the reins, Steve. Wham!
Well, I appreciate it.
Wham! It was good. Good work, Steve.
Yeah, it's
All right.
good work in your strange fetish show.
Thank you. I worked very hard.
So,
All right. Go ahead, Funk.
I want to bust a cap in myself here. And talk about the last show that I watched this season. A Collin production. I watched Promised Neverland, Yakusoku no Neverland. And it's nice to have another entry into everybody's favorite genre of anime, which is Cookie Monster. Which is to say, you know, another page turner, another show where the ending is more often than not just another grabbing cliffhanger.
If you want a full explanation of Cookie Monster, please listen to our last podcast.
Yes, we did recommend. Someone recommended the show on that podcast, right?
It was Collin.
It was me.
Yeah. Okay.
I made this.
Collin made this. Collin also read the manga that he also made.
I also have now read the manga, but that's a different point entirely. Go ahead.
So I watched this based off of Collin's recommendation, and it was everything he promised it would be. It was really good. Kept me on the edge of my seat from week to week. I was always very disappointed to have to wait it out for the next episode. I don't think it was a perfect show. Not that Collin claimed it was, but I don't think it's a perfect show. But overall, it's pretty high quality, higher than average. Problems that I had usually come down to the characters. With maybe the exception of Emma, none of the principal characters feel at all like people. Both Ray and Norman are, I don't even know how to describe them, somewhere between like sociopaths and chess masters, but nothing at all like a human being. And that really reached its head as far as becoming an issue at the end of the season, around when Norman is removed from the show. For how long? I don't know. Maybe he'll be back. But aside from those minor issues with the characters, I really have nothing but good things to say about this show. So, Collin, what's your piece here, given that this is your one of your many babies?
Right. So I talked about the show kind of at length in the last podcast, and I gave a quick rundown on what I liked about it, and I'm going to try my best not to retread that.
Well, I mean, we did have to talk around it a lot, so you can go into spoilers now. Spoiler warning if anyone's listening. But
well, that's nice. Okay, great.
Last time Funk had not watched it, so we could not really say anything about it.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I think I talked a lot about stuff I liked about it, like in terms of its atmosphere being very oppressive.
You did, yeah.
About the poet Mike Staklasa.
I'm gonna check out here for a second.
Okay, that's fine.
Message me once you're done.
Okay.
Right.
The spoilers.
Matt did not read the spoilers.
Matt actually caring about spoilers is a new one.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well, I do want to watch this show. So.
Okay, that's good.
Go on, get.
You absolutely. Yeah, this is one you absolutely have to go into blind.
You're gonna get spoiled. Get out of here. Get.
Is he gone?
Is he actually leaving the room?
No, do we know if he's
gone now?
Okay. All right. So, with this, we talked about how they removed internal monologue last time, and I'm sorry I don't really have any general thesis statement. I took no notes before getting on, so I'm just going to talk about random stuff. This is going to be a stream of consciousness podcast.
Great.
So that's kind of been a give and take throughout the season. This,
as far as being a good or a bad thing.
Yeah. For so many shows, the removal of an internal monologue would probably improve it, and this was probably the wrong show to experiment with that, because so much of it relies on seeing the characters or listening to the characters go through their thought process to reach their conclusions.
Well, at times it's not quite the removal of an internal monologue, but rather changing it to an external monologue.
Yeah, that's also can be very awkward.
Yeah, which is a strange choice. But at other times, is there just a hard removal? I don't quite remember it.
A lot of the time there is just a hard removal with nothing supplementing it.
Okay.
Although there was one scene where they chose to just keep the internal monologue because otherwise the scene would not nearly be as good. And that was the scene where Crone dies.
Right.
Where they kept the monologue there, which was great. And it feels like so much of the show is set up very well. I feel like when they remove Norman from the show, right?
Yeah.
That's a big. Can I give you guys a big come on now?
Yeah.
Here's a big come on now. But that has long-term consequences to it. It's not just did this fool me or did this not. Like if it didn't fool me, then it failed, right? So
hold on. What's the fool me here going on? Because I don't even think it's all that much of a whatever it is. Because the last shot you have of Norman is something that completely begs, further elucidation, right? It's not just him like dying or him going to his end, like, oh wait, this time it's different, and then Norman like enters a strange room and there's a reaction shot and then it ends, and you'd be an idiot to think, all right, well, Norman's dead. I guess that's it.
Maybe I just spend too much time reading comments from brainlets on A, who seem to think that they're quite bright by saying, I wasn't fooled by this. Come on, it's so dumb. Why did they even bother? No, because there are long-term consequences to from his removal from the story.
Real quick, these are the same people who, when Norman quote unquote shows up to in the minds of Ray and Emma, they're like, "Whoa, how did Norman get there?" I thought he was dead. Where did he go after that? Oh no!
Because up to this point, what I really really love about this is that up till this point, when you think about it, Norman's really been the main character. It hasn't really been Emma up till this point.
And then it shifts.
Yeah, he's been with her the whole time, and he's kind of been the one who's been the proactive character throughout all of this. And they definitely, something I really respect about this is that they definitely have a lot of patience with revealing what exactly Norman saw. So they are definitely not rushing to go to show you what happened to him exactly
to get to the Norman factory.
Yeah, because so they definitely take some time to develop Emma as the main character from here on out. I just wish that in this part of the story, it does feel a little bit rushed from that moment of total despair to the pivot of them turning everything around and escaping and initiating their plan that has been completely obscured from the audience. I know there's a scene where Dawn and Gilda give Emma a note that's from Norman, and I feel like this would have been much better placed earlier. But I'm sure what they wanted to say, what they wanted to convince the audience was that there was no plan, and that may have hinted at it too much. But again, this show or this manga is typically very good about showing something that will hint at there still being a plan or whatever plot development comes up next, right? It's been very good about that since the beginning. I mean, they had that shot of Norman uncovering the lighter fluid, but they didn't show it. So this could have been something similar to that. I mean, they've been dropping Phil on you innocuously for the entire show, just so that they can make it more believable when they say that Phil they tell Phil about the secret of the house, right? Of the farm. Just so that it's not just some random kid, or they really emphasize that, hey, they even mention at one point, hey, Phil's got top test scores, so they say, okay, Phil's a prodigy. They try their best to justify basically everything that happens in the show. So yeah, it is a little underwhelming, that, and then yes, it's definitely dumb that Ray has
amnesia. Or no, what's the opposite of amnesia? He doesn't have amnesia.
I made the comment to Collin when this episode aired that it was a bold decision to give him superpowers.
Yeah,
and that's basically what it is.
The characters are meant to be very bright, right? But they're meant to be prodigies.
To Funk's point about the characters is like, you have to kind of accept that about the show because it's what the show's about. It did bother me too, Funk. Like those complaints about the characters, they are a little bit too smart for their age.
Yeah, but even that they work to justify in the narrative itself, because they are raised to be intelligent, to be tastier.
And that's why that they are the oldest ones there, because their test scores have been so high that they keep cultivating them up and up, and everybody there is going to be smarter because of the focus on study. Like, it technically makes sense, but
they do stretch it.
It often comes like their intelligence comes at the expense of human emotion, especially with Norman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
you get to see him start kind of peeling back before he goes.
Just a little bit. But so much of it is like, all right, cool, collected, planning. And I just want to see these people fucking cry or get angry, like... It's why Emma is the only one who seems like a human fucking being, but that's just her womanly emotions getting the better of her. Yeah, so it's just difficult to relate to them, you know. You take a much more isolated stance on watching them. You don't feel like you're really in there with those characters. You're just observing them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest issue. But like other characters, like Isabella, I really enjoyed the way her character was
Villains
handled.
who did nothing wrong.
Same thing with
man.
Crone.
Okay. Oh, they Kino-fied Isabella. That's one of the biggest boons from the removal of the internal monologue. Because in the manga, when they have that moment of her, you know, her whole flashback spiel as she's watching them escape, she's monologuing throughout most of that. And just having the music play over that made that whole thing 10 times better because the images speak for themselves.
Right. I haven't read the manga like you guys. I had no idea that something was missing from that scene. Because it was just so complete as it was. It didn't feel like, what I need something explained to me. Like I don't get the tone here. What am I supposed to be feeling? No, it was just complete. So I get the sense a lot of the monologues that they did remove are really just were unnecessary for one reason or another.
Oh no.
that
You're not wrong.
That just stopped.
But okay, so one thing I want to say, at least for stupid as the fetus memory shit was, it at least pay off in a kind of cool way at the end there.
That pays
Did that
off.
pay off?
Yeah, I think that scene with him and Isabella was really good.
See, I think that scene's only function is just to say, oh, that's Isabella's son. Whereas you could have explained that in any other way that didn't involve the stupid lack of amnesia. Because like him knowing that song and Isabella hearing him hum it didn't really have any inherent meaning to it as far as like character development or plot device or anything. It just reaffirms what we already knew about Ray's condition.
I think it humanizes Isabella a lot. Like the fact that something shook her like that.
Maybe
in a series where she otherwise is unshakable.
I guess the way I was looking at it initially when I saw it was that it gave more meaning to like the partnership that the two of them developed. But then again, that's already explained by their, you know, maternal relationship, them being family. So I don't know. Like it's not bad.
There are pros and cons to including it. Overall, I still feel like the fetus shit was stupid.
Yeah, and it's not like that scene that's the problem. It's the whole that aspect of his character.
Yeah, and like you could write it a different way without that.
And
they at least used it in a way that was interesting to me.
Just to be sure, I just wanted to double check on this to make sure I'm not a complete idiot. The song has appeared elsewhere in the series, right? Because when he started playing it in the flashback, I'm like, oh, I remember this from some other scene. I don't remember when, but that has appeared earlier, right? Probably Isabella humming it or something.
I'm not sure. I can't quite remember. I know she's hummed it multiple times.
Yeah, so that's just it. I just wanted to
It's also sure. Like the leitmotif or whatever of the series, like of the musical score.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Leitmotif.
Also, the music was really fucking good in this show.
Who's gonna say it?
What kicks in when they start initiating their escape? What is it, Funk? What's the instrument? It's something jazzy.
I don't remember.
A sax.
I don't remember.
Well, it was sick nasty, bruv.
It was lit?
It was lit. Just like the fire.
Oh, no. So...
Frank's not here to defend himself, so go all in on him.
So it's not about going in on Frank. It's just Frank is one of these people. So in the OP, they have fire imagery and they also work fire into the song as a lyric. And then later on in the show, the house goes up in flames. So those are just two things. One references the other, and that's it. There's no meaning there. Like that doesn't say anything. It's just fire.
It's cool.
like it's cool that Broccoli was in the season 1 OP of Mob Psycho, but that doesn't its presence there or at the end of the story doesn't inform on anything. It's not I think Frank said it might have been like commentary or something, and it's not. It's just something that happens. It's just a reference.
I mean, I appreciate the constructions of anime openings that tease things to come without directly spoiling them.
Yeah, like it's neat.
Like there is an art to creating anime openings that a lot of studios fail at. Yes,
I've never thought about OPs before, so
I mean, because you don't. I also know you don't really pay attention to the visuals in the opening. You're more about the music, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm not watching them, but it is not where my main interest is. But anyway, even this is also in the music, so it's not even like an issue of that. But yeah, it's just I think it's just the amount of lip service I saw paid to it. I thought was very, very strange considering what it actually was, which was very little. It's like when somebody just makes referential humor, right? It's the worst of all humor. And this is like the worst of all imagery, referential imagery. Like you need to say something if you really want it to and
they said fire.
They probably didn't mean it to have any real significance, so that's fine. It's not that it really needed more. It's just that people need to change their adjust their expectations for this and be like, "Well, he said the thing," and like,
it's okay to have that.
I don't think the problem isn't that it's there. It's the problem is people's reaction to it. I don't think Frank's complaining about it.
Okay, I don't necessarily want to speak for Frank, but I feel like you're overinflating his meaning in reacting to that.
Hold on, I'm gonna fucking find this because it needs to be said.
Then again, he's still on about it, so it still bothers him that you called him out.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, hold on.
It's just a little wink. Look, it's just a little wink.
Frank called it fire iconography, and he says before that he calls it imagery, and I corrected him, and I remember saying this, and I thought it was pretty apropos. I said, Frank, it's not imagery, it's just an image. And I think I stand by that. It's just a picture of fire. So what are you going to do?
It was fine. I liked it.
I clapped when I saw it.
Unironically.
Okay, so in actual
it's just a little wink. It's just a little wink at the audience when it shows up in the actual show. You're like, I see.
Yeah, that was my reaction. Like, oh, that's kind of cool.
You were playing with me the whole time. I thought this didn't mean anything. It turns out it was actually referring to something that happened in the show. I thought it was just an OP. Who knew? Me.
All right,
I knew because I read the manga.
In actual complaints about the show, this is kind of a minor one, but I feel like the show sometimes suffers from what I want to call try-hard directing.
Try-hard directing. You know, I opted to not get into how I found the visuals of Mob to be distracting at times, and this feels like a complaint in a similar vein.
No,
this one's better.
Some of it was okay, but like when you, especially with the stuff with Sister Crone, like the performance and the visuals of that character sell you on what she's trying to express alone. You don't need like wacky camera tilting to drive the point home. Everything else already did that. So it was just in those kind of minor moments that it bothered me, but it was still there. It was unnecessary. They went a bit too far in a few places.
So you read the manga. Do those shots, do they not replicate certain frames, certain panels from the manga?
Not that I can recall. Not specifically like that. I think this was a directorial choice, especially because like the doll thing.
Right, because that was also in the manga.
Yeah. So like they really wanted to drive the point home on how unnerving this character was, and it was already there. You didn't need to go this far. But like I said, it's a minor complaint in what is otherwise a really good show.
There are also too many shots of them going around the stairs. Like CGI stairs.
Okay, the first time they did that, I think it achieved the intended effect of unnerving you of like what's around the corner, but like I think you can only pull that trick once.
Dude, like claustrophobic house. I like to think that somebody was really worried that people would question how they got from room to room if we didn't see it. Like, how are they getting around this house? It's like when you watch Birdemic and half the movie is just shots of cars.
You were very disappointed in that.
Yeah. But good show. Already has a season 2 confirmed. Right?
Yep. Next year.
Wowie, zowie, boys.
I'm actually, so, I like a show. I'm generally excited to watch the sequel, more or less. But here, I have more excitement, more trepidation than usual, because from what I've heard from Collin, it really shifts given the complete shift in setting. And that feels like it would alter the tone and certainly the plot. So I feel like this next season is going to be very different in a lot of ways. So
it definitely is, and I kind of admire it for being so willing to change its premise at such a time in its story, like 12 episodes, a full season in, right? And you basically have to completely change what the story is.
Much like the Fox TV show Prison Break, where they finally broke out of prison.
Well, they fixed that problem in a very unorthodox way by going back to prison.
Well, okay. I'm not all the way caught up on the manga, but they introduced something that made me think that really is Prison Break, and I don't know if they follow through on it. Maybe I'll get there eventually.
Did Emma get a schematic of the complex tattooed on her back or something?
Not that I'm aware of. She just has the number tattoo, and that's it. There are still good things to come. Like I was told Colin, I basically read 100 chapters of the manga in the last couple days, and it's good. It's still good. I don't think it reaches the highs of this arc, but it's not a drastic fall off by any means.
Hey Funk,
yeah,
could you give us a Wii U? Thank you. Oh, he gave us 2.
Well, there's 2 in the song.
Yeah, I know there are 2. You really went the extra mile.
I would have felt ashamed if I didn't.
Thank you.
Good OP.
Great OP.
Yep.
Good OP.
Fire.
Great OP.
It's a good OP.
Fire.
You want to tell Matt to come back?
Sure.
Fire. I don't really have any other shows personally discussed, so whatever you guys want to talk about.
Well, let's wait for Matt to get back.
Is he like jazzercising? Where'd he go?
All right. Do we need to pause the podcast?
No, what? No,
I'm here.
He's back.
Oh,
now
okay.
featuring real-time waiting.
Matt, do you have any shows you'd like to discuss?
I mean, no, that's all I watched.
Oh,
Just
that's
2
it?
shows.
We're out of shows? Okay, wait. Steve, you're out of shows. Funk's out of shows. Baby boy, looks like it's time to talk about Dororo.
Now, is Dororo an anime or a Hanna-Barbera cartoon from the 60s?
Well, I think it is from the 60s. So there's that. But it is an anime now. And since this is not the mid-season podcast, I can never actually make this show. So unfortunately, I did not make it. Instead, I am purely recommending it.
This is not where we recommend things. This is where we say they're good or they ain't.
I mean, you did
I have no
accomplish
one
something.
to discuss it with.
You did accomplish something very unusual in that you talked Frank out of dropping it, and he picked it back up.
Yeah, and he's still watching it, which is good for him.
In what way is influencing
out.
Frank's opinion through mild argumentation at all in common?
Oh, jeez.
How often does it happen?
Isn't he studying law? Shouldn't this be difficult for you to do?
Oh no.
Doesn't he want to be a liar?
Actually, Your Honor, I guess my client is guilty. When
He
you put
did-
it like that.
He did lose that trial against me, so
Oh no. What was that for Phantom World?
Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
Anyway, Dororo is a dark Japanese fantasy adventure show about Sword Arms McGee, Mr. Swords for Hands, who is a super cripple with no skin, no arms, no legs, no eyes, no feeling, who is off cutting down demons in order to regain his lost body parts. And yeah, as Matt said earlier, it is based on a manga from the guy who did Astro Boy. And the original, this is a great deviation from the original art direction of that manga, as you know, it still kind of retains that Astro Boy look in the manga. It's also very short, evidently, apparently. And it's got like a weird. I can see. I don't want to say that this is what he intended to make something darker, you know. But the manga, when you look at it, just looking at that Astro Boy style, it does feel like it starkly contrasts in an unintentional way with the tone of the story, which is pretty bleak, or at least that's how it feels in this anime adaptation. It's pretty violent, and the violence is in the manga, but it has this weirdly cartoonish look to it for the whole. You've got like these weird stars and dust cloud effects that you get from like a wacky '60s cartoon, which are wholly removed now in this new adaptation.
They took out the soul.
Some might say they took out the soul. Also, they definitely changed the main character significantly, whereas in the manga, he starts out very functional despite his disabilities. He has means of communicating, whereas in this version, he has to learn how to communicate as these new sensations come to him. He's able, you know, as he learns to hear, as he learns to speak, he learns to feel pain. And sort of watching him grow, it's pretty interesting. Oh, geez, I have no one to talk to.
That's right, Collin.
It's a very isolating feeling when you have no notes and you have no one to talk to.
My favorite part of Dororo was episode 5, in which Dororo had to get the girl.
Dororo is a girl. And that's a spoiler, but not really, because you can already tell from the very first episode that she's voiced by a girl.
Collin, are you saying that girls can't be with girls?
That is law. That's actually true.
Oh yeah. No!
Don't break any laws in your country.
That's straight up anime law. That's you're gonna get arrested.
Not like this.
We're getting a little off track here. Because I have I'm sorry. I was really jazzed to talk about Dororo, but now I feel very intimidated.
You know what? I will say I kind of regret not picking up this show.
Mm-hmm.
Just so Collin would have somebody to talk to.
Well, that is also... I fell behind on a bunch of other shows, and I was like, as soon as I saw this was like 2 cores, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to pick this up and do the same thing.
It's very easy to pick up, honestly.
That's good to know, because I still am interested in this show.
You could burn through several episodes very quickly. I wouldn't really call it like breakneck pace, but it's mostly episodic and self-contained within each episode. It's pretty palatable for taking on. If you're like, I don't feel like going through the first 12 episodes. You can just go. It's really easy to just go at your own pace for the most part.
What would you say the show's biggest strength is?
I think one of its biggest strengths is probably how unafraid of portraying that sort of bleakness of the era that it takes place in. It feels very oppressive for both of the characters.
Do and Dororo?
Yeah. Dororo is the eponymous Dororo. has a pretty heart-wrenching backstory. And it's happy endings are either kind of ambiguous or they don't really lead to much. It's just, we made it through, we survived. It just seems like a constant tragedy after tragedy as autistic swordsman just ruins everyone's lives. just because he wants to survive. He has to. He must. It's all he knows. I think it actually does a really good job of building a relationship between two characters where one of them can't even really communicate. Because
Are they retarded?
No, well, he can't speak and he can't see, and he starts out not being able to hear.
And he's not retarded.
Well, the term it would be dumb if you're mute.
Oh, he dumb.
So that relationship is just watching him grow and watching them help each other out and develop. That's another strong point of the series. And visually, it's nothing really to write home about. You've got some nice vistas. Animation wise, it's fairly mediocre for the most part. But at the same time, it is one of its bigger strengths visually is probably just being unafraid to shy away from making a mess a lot of the time.
A lot of blood.
For the squeamish, for the Steves out there, there is...
Listen, I can take it if it's anime.
Okay. You can take it if it's anime.
That's what I said about Dick.
Okay.
Omega.
I think I'm done talking about Dororo.
Apparently, this did actually have an anime back in 1969.
Oh, really?
Nice.
And of course, it looked like Astro Boy.
Yep.
And apparently that wasn't like that was violent. Like it wasn't. It didn't shy away from like being bloody and violent either.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a fun time.
I give it a Doro out of Roro.
Good.
Cute show, kids. Cute show.
Do we have any other orders of business to attend to here?
No, I'm sorry I left on a stinker here, guys.
No, it's okay.
I should have taken some notes.
You know what? It's Frank's
unprepared.
fault for not being here to discuss this show with you.
No, I should have had some more talking points about it. I wasn't actually really expecting to talk about it. I just kind of when it came out of my mouth, let's talk about Dororo. I immediately thought to myself, you know what? I'm not prepared to do this at all.
Well, you had a clear out to say. I immediately thought, oh no, and you just blew it.
That's another missed opportunity on this Dororo discussion. Hope I sold you all on the show.
What is it about?
I
What?
just said it. It's swords for hands, going across the country, killing demons to restore his body. Although he doesn't even really know that's his goal.
Is this
Wait, I do.
Is
know
this like a
show.
Japanese version of Samurai Jack?
So
this
that's-
has a lot less laser beams and tiger people. Robots. No robots in this show.
Wait, is this the anime adaptation of Machine Girl?
Funk, no one understands what you're saying.
I can't understand what my funk is saying.
Yeah.
Oh no. So that's the winter 2019 season.
What era is it in Japan still?
Right now is the Heisei era.
So this is our last podcast of that era.
Yes. Come Golden Week, which is extra long this year. We're gonna have a new emperor, which means a new era.
Nice.
Do you know what it's called?
No, nobody does.
Yes,
It's-
they do. They just revealed it today.
Oh, what? Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh
Hold
my
on.
god.
Do you know what it's called?
It's called is it Reiwa?
Ah, Reiwa. Yeah, that's nice.
I've already seen some Eva shit posting over this, so
Oh,
God.
nice. Yeah, so out with the old, in with the Dewa.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Anime is canceled.
Oh no.
Yeah, we tried. We tried to save it.
That's the first thing the Emperor does. Anime is officially canceled.
That's why Golden Week is extra long. He siphoned all that anime into an extra holiday.
Oh man.
It's a give and take. Yeah, so if apparently if you just stay in your apartment hovel all day, you don't hear important news like this. So I had no idea.
You have the internet.
Yeah, well, I don't fucking read the news, Steve. Read the real news. ANN. Actually, it was probably reported there, too. TBH.
Yeah, it was. Well,
Jesus.
hey, listen. We got One Punch Man Season 2 to look forward to next season.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I actually feel the same.
What else is there?
Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 2.
We got another harem show. Oh, this is one I see actually posted a lot. This is what's it called? Boku
no Pico?
Tachi wa Benkyo ga Dekinai.
We
Which
can't
is-
study?
That's the literal title. Yeah. we never learn is like the official English title.
All right.
Hold on.
Is it about manlets?
Wait a minute.
It can't be any worse than this art club has a problem.
That was an okay show, but
Hold
it's not
on.
a hill I'm willing to die on.
Hold up a second. This is just the quintessential quintuplets. It's about a guy who has to tutor people.
Are they 5 identical twins?
No, I mean there are
They're
5
sisters.
girls in the thumbnail for it. But hang on a second.
Hold up.
Hold up.
We
Are
need
we
to
still
watch
recording?
just
Yeah.
to
Why?
directly compare because we're previewing the next season, you mong.
We're not prepared to preview the next season. We have to scroll through everything.
Okay.
Who's gonna
All
listen
right.
to this?
Who
Who is going to
watch
listen to this
this?
in general is the theme of our podcast.
That's a
Who
good point.
here is gonna watch Fairy Gone?
What's that?
I don't know. It's a PA work show.
That's some dragon type propaganda right there.
This all looks awful. I don't know what
Hey,
this
like,
is.
there are-
Wait a minute. There's a Gundam show coming out about Char.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. I found Steve Core. Let me
You
read the description here.
Is it about the teacher?
I think so. 17-year-old Ichiro Sato is an average teenager who always happens to find himself in perverted situations with his teacher. So I think we found it.
Listen, I'm not an expert on fucking Japanese teacher-student relations, although I did play Persona 5, so I may have some credibility here.
He's learned
But-
something.
I can confirm that Persona 5 is true to life in many ways.
You didn't follow the correct route though, so you don't know.
Oh my god.
Late doctor, man.
Rude.
You went for Dr. Legs.
Rude. Sorry I didn't go for fucking fluffy Christmas cake.
That was a lot nicer description than what I was preparing for from you.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna. What's the over under that any of us watch this show called Carol and Tuesday? Just based on the title.
It seems like a funk show based on the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I a Tuesday man?
Yes.
Oh, rude. You know, I realized looking at these little posters here that a lot of anime seems to revolve around cute girls.
You don't say. Hey, wait. There's this one show that's a crossover of fucking Yojo Senki, Overlord, ReZero, and Konosuba.
Is this the Isekai Quartet?
Yes.
It's got something for everybody. TVQH. Maybe we should all watch it.
It's probably going to be bad, but...
I'm sure it'll be
not
great.
going to be good.
I mean, if they just keep killing Subaru off over and over again, then it might be pretty funny.
I mean, it's a show is good when the first line of its summary is a mysterious switch appeared one day. Which
I watched the preview for that one teacher show that Funk read, and all I can say is there are a lot of Sony sunbeams.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's gonna get massacred by censors. It's very much a wait for the Blu-ray show.
So 2 things here. One, there's a new Strike Witches apparently, so we should all steer clear of Kenny. And 2, there's apparently
for Kenny.
There's a slice of life show that is being billed as having no dialogue, which I'm kind of interested in.
That's a funk show if I ever heard.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty interested in seeing this.
I think I've heard about that, and it sounds like something that could be interesting.
Who needs dialogue when you're this cute?
Well,
that's the first line of the description.
Oh, it is. Oof.
Well, I hate anime.
Yeah.
If there's one thing we learned in fucking 5-6 years of doing this podcast is we all hate anime.
Oh my god.
Well, we keep watching. Keep coming back for more.
Anime comes and goes, but hate is eternal. Oh, Matt, there's a show called Usagi no Matthew. You should watch it.
What?
There's a show called Usagi no Matthew.
Where the hell is this?
It's in like the bottom section where they put all the children's programming.
Oh,
actually, it's in continuing, so it might be airing right now. You're missing out on yourself.
Hold on.
I'll just link you to the page. How about that?
How long is the podcast this time, boys?
It's like a little over 2.5 hours.
All right.
Reasonable length.
Oh, okay. It's just one of these shows.
This
is from 2018.
That was only last year.
This has been airing since April 5th of last year.
This is a 5.35.
Nice.
Who is watching this show that is also privy to Mal?
I can't wait for the expert criticisms on Usagi no Matthew.
I guess you'll just have to tune in next time to find out.
It's a minute long. A minute. I haven't seen the last show with that length. It's that stupid psychic show. Still angry about. And I still see advertisements.
It's very popular.
Here we go. I found another one. It looks like Kino's back on the menus, boys. We got a show called Miru Tights. It's an ONA.
Oh no.
Everything you'll know everything about this show just from the thumbnail.
We did it,
boys. We got our foot fetish show.
Is that the word miru just means to look at? So this is just looking at tights. This is the title. So I think it's I don't know if it's just pure foot faggotry or if it's a level beyond that where tights are their own thing.
Well, I feel like tights and foot faggotry kind of go hand in hand.
I mean, I feel it's more about the legs, but this picture is very clearly emphasizing the feet.
It's very clearly emphasizing the feet.
Because tights to me are legs and thighs.
What
Someone's
got to buy these girls some shoes.
Oh, I like the description. It does emphasize that they're wearing wet tights.
Is that?
I don't want to. Actually, I don't want to know.
What was that show with the stupid specific fetishes every 3 minutes?
Seiren?
Yeah, this is a Seiren thing.
Well, I know. I mean, this feels like something along the lines of that show about like wanting girls to look at you with like a really aggravated expression while.
I think I watched the first 3 episodes of that.
It's like she was
very
looking at human
experimental.
garbage. I've never heard of this, by the way. This was a show?
Yeah.
Oh my
it was
goodness.
some OVA thing.
It's literally, it is literally just that funk. It's looked like she was looking at human garbage, the show.
Wow.
Only at the same time, they're showing you your panties.
Really makes you think. I love Japan.
some madman motherfucker made not really. I don't even think it was a manga. I think it was just like a series of like pictures, kind of like that Tawala show.
Mm.
Like it was just a thing that caught on, and he managed to get popular enough for them to make an anime out of it. Like
That's the
imagine,
dream.
he is living the dream.
So on Mel, they have a, I guess like a forum function where people can open threads on the pages of different shows. So on this Miru Tights page, there's just one thread called "What the hell is this?"
Yep.
Mal knows. Response: It is art.
The
There you have it.
The final boss of anime.
So, we'll be prepared for the mid-season where we can all get some juicy recs in, a bit of show and tell about the shows we made.
Uh-huh. You actually watch stuff next season?
I watched stuff this season.
You watched 3 shows, 2 of which you watched the majority of today.
I watched 2 shows, the majority of which I watched in 2 days.
You know what? You don't come down on Matt about these things. Don't reason me.
Looks
That's
like
because-
I'm King of the Ring this time.
Listen, I was too busy playing Pokemon.
That's a good reason.
Oh, but me being too busy with my fucking job. No.
I was also busy with my job.
You've had like 2 weeks off that you spent fucking playing Sekiro and watching Magic coverage.
Yeah, well.
He's got to hit it off, bros. He's got to make it big as a streamer.
We all make mistakes. Yours was believing in me.
Mine was starting this podcast.
Oh, no.
All right. I'm hungry. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Say goodbye.
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 Bye.
Man.